Midday SuperTalk Mississippi live from the Mississippi Trade Mart for the Mississippi Economic Council's Capital Day. And joining us now in the Element Wealth Studios, right in the midst of the hallways here, the corridors of the Mississippi Trade Mart, is Mandy Gunasekara. She is a candidate for the Northern District of the Public Service Commission to be the Public Service Commissioner for the Northern District. Mandy, welcome to Middays. Good to see you, and always appreciate you filling in when you have for us. So.
Yeah, well, always happy to help, and it's such a beautiful day outside, and this is a cool setting in here. It's good to be with MEC and get to talk to you about all that's going on here in the Capitol.
They're all running around here today, all the muckety-mucks, aren't they?
That's right. That's right.
All right, so you have qualified, or you're today, right?
Well, I officially signed my paperwork yesterday, and then we've got a bit of a celebratory event over at the Mississippi GOP today. Absolutely.
Looking forward to that. They're going to try to stop by and see what's going on there. So what made you decide to jump into this race?
Well, a couple things, Gerard. I've thought about running for a long time. I know you know my father. He served in the military, so having an eye towards public service is something I grew up with, and I've always tried to think about how best could I help my community. And given my experience with energy and environment and helping to set reasonable regulations under the Trump administration, I saw what was happening in North Mississippi. And what you've got is there's been a lot of promises made with regard to access to affordable, reliable energy and expanding access to broadband. When I talk to folks, I hear about energy and internet. And for 15 years, there's been an incumbent in there talking about delivering on these, but hasn't actually delivered to the entirety of North Mississippi. And so I see what's happening. There's also a couple decisions being made that's setting Mississippi up for problems on the energy and internet side. And if we want to be competitive in the modern economy, we need to have that under wraps and ready to go. I like to say those are the two components that form the bedrock of either a growing or a receding economy. And I want to make sure that we are built on that solid rock foundation. And given my eye towards service, my experience, I see this as a very good opportunity to jump in and make a difference in the northern part of the state, where there's just a ton of growth and opportunity if it is pushed in the right direction. One of the more controversial matters that was taken up and adopted by the Public Service Commission, as you know, on a 2-1 vote was credits that would be issued by the energy company for installation of solar panels. Right. The net metering. And included net metering as well. We had Dane Maxwell on the program yesterday, Public Service Commissioner for the Southern District, discussing that. You have a feeling about that, a position on that? Yeah, I do. I think that's one of those bad decisions that's setting Mississippi up for problems. You know, when you start to incentivize inferior technologies that create problems in the grid, that will lend itself to an unreliable grid and higher costs for we, the ratepayers. Yeah. And it's as simple as this, Gerard. It's, do you have solar panels on your house? If the answer is no, do you feel like it's fair to pay for your neighbor to have solar panels on their house when at the end of the day they are complicating a grid that isn't perfect, but it's doing pretty well. So those type of policies, they have no place in Mississippi, and I look forward. I've talked to Commissioner Maxwell about this as well, and he's been a very, very helpful person and a very good friend, and I think he's been representing the state well, especially in that position. The issue I had with it, honestly, Mandy, was the requirement that 50% of those credits be issued to low-income households. Right. Which just sounded to me to be more ideological than practical and functional. That's the first thing. And the second thing is, how many low-income households are looking to go spend $20,000 on solar panels? I just don't think that's high on their list. You don't have to be a math whiz to realize that spending $20,000 to $30,000 to get $3,500 or something like that. Yeah. At the behest of Mississippi and U.S. taxpayers just does not make financial sense. So it's a gimmick. It really has no place in Mississippi, and I want to work towards ensuring decisions around energy and broadband in particular, as well as water. Water is under the purview and infrastructure and pipeline safety, but all these are based off of what's best for Mississippians and not letting politics or what may be best in terms of subsidies for other third-party influences that are trying to take advantage of Mississippi as a state. Okay.
What sort of reception have you received, if any, from the utility industry?
I will say this, generally speaking, I've had very positive response from folks. The utilities they keep an arm's distance. Some of that is by virtue of the law. But I do think that seemingly they are excited that someone who knows a thing or two about energy, knows a thing or two about setting regulations and pushing that through, and also knows a few people that can be helpful in the legislature to make sure that we are moving and making decisions that are balanced and pragmatic. I've heard that they see that as a good thing.
Okay.
So we shall see. But it's I care more about what the ratepayers say and
Sure.
the consumers because they're the ones who have to deal with the consequences of these decisions.
Sure. And you've got deep experience in the energy sector, served as the chief of staff of the EPA under the Trump administration. So tell the folks a little bit about your background.
Yeah, certainly. So serving as chief of staff, I had purview over, it was a 14,000 federal employee workforce all across the country, in charge of keeping 12 of the D.C.-based offices on track and in line with implementing the Trump administration's view of environmental protection. And at the end of the day, it was about establishing certainty for stakeholders, people who were required to comply with the standards, and also cutting unnecessary red tape. So I like to say I was at the tip of the spear in terms of cutting red tape and delivering savings to the economy. So the people in this country, whether businesses, whether they run a business or a factory or anything, can do what they do best and spend less time worrying about what's going on in D.C. and spend more time investing in the people and the business that they care so much about. And I'll say this too, Gerard, what I think is going to be most helpful is that I saw front and center a very good, important mission that had been co-opted and corrupted by third-party interests trying to use the EPA to implement political ends, and that created so many problems in terms of cost and in terms of access to that reliable energy that is especially harmful to mid to low income individuals or anyone on a fixed income. And so understanding that and coming to Mississippi and being a strong advocate for the ratepayers and for understanding what they need and making sure that politics doesn't find its way into those decisions and create problems that, frankly, we can't deal with in Mississippi, and we shouldn't have to.
Yeah, and doesn't it make sense, Mandy, that the Public Service Commission really shouldn't be politicized?
Right.
It really has no place in that environment.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And you could say the same for environmental policy and energy policy writ large, but especially here because it really is about seeing if there's a need and addressing that need in the most pragmatic way possible.
Yeah.
And there shouldn't be politics in that. Now, today's world, politics seems to find its way in everything, whether it's our schools or whether it's sports. But I intend to get in there and focus on the business and the straight responsibilities instead of, and get the politics and any extreme third-party interest out.
Have you heard any mention of other possible candidates on the Republican ticket for this office?
I have not, and I've been asking. Now, that doesn't mean anything. Some folks
Sure.
will keep this close, hold it close to the vest, as they say.
3 weeks left, essentially.
Yeah, 3 weeks left, so we'll know by February 1st what the landscape will look like.
Is there anything you'd like to say in particular that truly does differentiate you from the present office holder, Democrat Brandon Presley?
Well, I think first and foremost is I'm a conservative Republican, and I think most of the listeners of this show understand what that means. And this is a very conservative district. They deserve to have conservative leadership making decisions on their behalf. So that's the biggest differentiator. Beyond that, I have a vision for Mississippi, and that vision is that we are an area of massive growth. So when my kids grow up, they seek opportunity in the state. And I'm invested in that future through my kids, through my community, and through my broader Mississippi family. And I think that is a huge differentiating factor that really resonates with the folks I've been meeting in the Northern
It just
District.
feels like, I know I'm one of them, I just want to see reasonable regulation and a reasonable regulatory framework for the public service utility segment without it being politicized, without it being used as a political tool for political gain. Let's just do the job, and the voters will see that and they'll realize that. You've said it very eloquently here today. Your loyalty is to the ratepayers.
Yeah, and let's do what's right. I think that is what's most important, and let's actually deliver on what I say I'm going to do, not talk about it for 15 years. I will say that there's a complacency that manifests itself with incumbents, and we've seen that in northern Mississippi.
Yeah.
And I'm going to change that.
We look forward to tracking your campaign, Mandy, and good luck with it.
Thank you. Thanks for
coming
having me.
on. Yep. We'll be right back here at MEC's Capital Day. We're at the Mississippi Trade Mart. Middays is stepping aside for a break.